The beautiful hour of convening has arrived, and the Senate will come to order. At this time, I'd ask that all unauthorized persons exit the chamber. It's my honor to recognize the well-recognized, well-spoken, well-dressed, well-everything Senate Rules Chairman to once again address the Journal.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's a great day today. I've been honored by some distinguished former members, and they'll be back probably in a few minutes, but it's been a real treat, and there's no crying in baseball, but it's hard for me to get over that today. It's a beautiful day at our Capitol. Our members are ready to go to work on behalf of their constituents, and I don't really have anything to bring up today except that I'm honored for all the attention from my former Senate mates and my current senators. It's been such a great journey for me. Today's National Water Day. Senator from the 56 told me that, so I thought I'd mention that. The Journal's been read and found to be correct, Mr. President.
Senator from the 56 does such a great job of getting in your television shot over there every day. That camera's on you, and wave to the camera. There you go. Is there objection to dispensing with the reading of the Journal? The chair hears none, and the reading of the Journal is dispensed with. Is there objection to the confirmation of the Journal? The chair hears none, and the Journal is confirmed. I'm not certain there's any good ideas left out there, but if you do, all senators who have bills or resolutions, please bring them to the Secretary's desk at this time. Got a short list today, but Mr. Secretary, can you please read Senate bills and resolutions for the first time?
Senate Resolution 749 by Senators Davenport of the 44th and others, a resolution honoring the life of Mr. Jesse Bailak, Sr., and dedicating a bridge in his memory and for other purposes.
Transportation.
Senate Resolution 752 by Senator Gooch of the 51st, a resolution honoring the life of Miss Ethel Oliver Rogers and dedicating an intersection in her memory and for other purposes.
Transportation.
That completes the order, Mr. President.
Ms. Secretary, will you now read reports of standing committees, please?
Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Education and Youth has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation: that House Bill 1292 do pass and House Bill 1357 do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Payne of the 54th District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Judiciary has had under consideration the following legislation, has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation: that House Bill 620 do pass by substitute, House Bill 1088 do pass, House Bill 1134 do pass, House Bill 1188 do pass, House Bill 1428 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Strickland of the 17th District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Finances had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation: that House Resolution 594 do pass, Bill 424 do pass, and House Bill 1224 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Huffstetler of the 52nd District Chairman. That completes the order, Mr. President.
All right, it is now time for the morning roll call. It is now time for our morning roll call. Does any senator wish to make a motion to excuse? The chair recognizes the senator from the 56th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd ask unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 11th for business inside the Capitol.
Without objection, the senator from the 11th is excused. Are there any additional motions to excuse? Has anybody seen the senator from the 33rd? Give it a second here. All right, we'll give it one more second. Are there any additional motions to excuse? Chair recognizes the senator from the 28th.
Mr. President, I ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senators from the 30th and the 45th for business inside the Capitol.
Without objection, the senators from the 30th and 45th are excused. The chair recognizes the good senator who almost missed the call to action from the 33rd.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, y'all. I ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senators from the 41st, 44, 43, and 36, and one more, 38.
Without objection, the senators from the 41st, 44th, 43rd, 36th, and 38th are excused. Chair now recognizes the Dean of the Senate.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the
Second.
second.
Without objection, the senator from the 2nd is excused. Are there any additional motions to excuse? The Secretary will call the roll. Senators, signify your presence by voting the yea switch. The Secretary will unlock the machine. All right, it's the best time of the day. It's our morning devotional. All senators, please take your seats, cease all audible conversations. And doorkeepers, please secure the chamber at this time. Put the deadbolts on. It's my honor to recognize the senator from the 46th to lead us in our pledge and to introduce to us our chaplain of the day.
Good morning. Let's pledge allegiance to the flag. Pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now the Georgia flag. Pledge allegiance.
To the Georgia flag, to the principles for which it stands, wisdom, justice, and moderation.
Well, good morning. It's my honor today to introduce Reverend Matt Boeher. He is the pastor of Jackson County Baptist Church in Jefferson, Georgia. He and his wife Laura have been married since 2000 and got 3 great kids, Caleb, Kaylee, and Carson. As a boy, his father owned an architectural firm in London, Kentucky. The firm was in a 2-story home on Main Street that had the office on the first floor, and the family lived up on the second floor. His mother, Sherry, was a Christian, but his father, Randy, was an agnostic who at best tolerated religious discussions, but mostly despised anything Christian. And he especially despised preachers. During elementary school, Matt's cousin, Shauna, and her family visited. Shauna was a sincere young Christian, and she told Matt that hell was real, and she was concerned for his soul. He was scared by this thought. His mother took him aside and assured him that even though hell was real, so was heaven. Even better, that God was real and had sent Jesus Christ to pay for all of our sins. That very day, Matt made a personal decision to make Jesus Christ his Savior, and it was the most important decision of his life. His parents later separated when he was 15, and he moved with his mom down to Fort Myers, Florida. His grandfather was a pastor there. And that's when he began to attend church and decided to go into the ministry. So after graduating from Crown College of the Bible in Tennessee, and he returned to work at Emmanuel Baptist Church for his grandfather, taught in the Christian school, directed the athletics program, and ran the youth program at the church. And after his pastor's death, the church called him to be their senior pastor in 2008. So he has been in the ministry since then, has been in Jefferson, Georgia since 2019, there with the Jackson County Baptist Church. And I met him just this session as he came to meet with me on some issues. I was quite impressed with him and his sincerity and his Christian faith. Thought it'd be great for me to help introduce him to this body. So I introduce to you Matt Boeher.
Good morning. Thank you for that. I have a verse of Scripture for us today. It may be a verse of Scripture that you're very well aware of. It's in Proverbs chapter 14 and verse 34. It says this. It says, righteousness exalteth a nation, but sin is a reproach to any people. Now that verse is good for anybody from the guy driving the transit bus downtown to whoever owns the high rises. It's true that righteousness exalts a nation, and it's so vital for us. Now that verse for me has some special meaning as well. When you think about World War I history, there's lots of heroes from World War I. One of the heroes of World War I was a carrier pigeon named Cher-Ami. Now, we've come a long way technologically if a carrier pigeon was a hero not long ago. But another hero from World War I was Alvin York. Now, Alvin York grew up in Middle Tennessee, went back there, and if you've ever seen the movie or read any history about him, he captured over 132 of the enemy combatants the day he got the medal for. And I go on vacation in a little town called Byrdstown every year. It's in the middle of nowhere, but right next to that is the town where his home is, in a town called Pall Mall. And in Pall Mall, Tennessee, which is honestly in the middle of nowhere, you go there and it's his house, and it's just an average house. Wouldn't be impressive other than the fact that he lived there. You tour through it, and he's interesting to me because he was a very sincere Christian. And Mr. York was a very sincere Christian. As a matter of fact, the movie he made about his life, he only agreed to make that movie if they'd give him some money for him to build a Bible college to train preachers with. And he did that. I've been through that little building there. But in his home, you can tour his home, and there's lots of interesting things there. He still has his gallbladder on display there, which is kind of odd. But as you come out, we came down. I had my son and my kids with me. My son at the time was about 10. He plays the piano. And the fellow who works the parks department there said, hey, do you want to play the piano? Can any of you play the piano? My son sat down there and played At Calvary on the piano, and the fellow said Mrs. York would have loved that. We got up from there and turned around, and there was Alvin York's Bible, and they had it under glass, and you couldn't touch it, that kind of stuff. But as I peered into his Bible, they had it opened to the book of Proverbs in chapter 14, and underneath that he had underlined this verse, righteousness exalteth the nation, but sin is a reproach to any people. And I thought about that verse, and for me as an individual and a preacher, it's so vital that I do right in my own church and in my own city and in my own county. I also thought about this, as we're a legislative body here today, it applies to legislators as well. There's lots of reasons to make choices. Lots of reasons to make choices. And this may surprise you as well. You think about the Bible and you think, man, it's all about pastors and preachers and people in church. Did you know that there were several major Bible characters that were government workers and legislators? Now, there's some bad examples of those, right? Pontius Pilate's a bad example. He was the one in charge there when they took Jesus and crucified him. And sadly, he didn't make his decisions based on righteousness. As a matter of fact, he polled the crowd there, and they said, crucify him, crucify him. And he said, look, I'm going to examine him and see what's right here. And he examined Jesus and found Jesus to be innocent. But when the crowd said, crucify him, he said, all right. Tried to wash his hands of that, but never could. He made his decisions kind of on poll numbers. But there's some other good legislators in the Bible. Did you know that Daniel was somebody who helped in a government place? As a matter of fact, he was taken captive as a little boy in Babylon, and he eventually was so sharp, they said, we want you in the government, and he began to run the government. And he made his decisions always based on righteousness. Matter of fact, one time some of his political opponents got a little aggravated at him, and they said, we cannot catch him on the fact that he's sharp, he has a good spirit, he makes good choices, but we know he prays all the time. And they said, well, we're going to make a law that you can't pray to any other god but the king here. And so they made that law, and Daniel said, you know what, I'm still going to do right. And he made his choice based on righteousness. Now, if you know that story, you may say, hey, wait a second, didn't that guy get thrown in a lion's den? You'd be right, he did. But still, he did right. But there's another legislator that I think of that did right, and he made an amazing difference in the place he was, and that was Joseph. Not Joseph and Mary, Joseph the stepfather of Jesus. No, but the Old Testament Joseph. Do you remember his story? Joseph was a young man, and he had a dream that God was going to use him to do something great. And in that dream, he told it to all his brothers. His brothers got angry and aggravated at him. They wanted to kill him, but instead they sold him into slavery. Those are great brothers, aren't they? So off he went into slavery. He ended up in Egypt. When he ended up in Egypt, he was bought at a slave market and put in serving there. And when he was serving there, he decided not to get bitter and not get angry, but he decided, you know what, I'm just going to do what's right. He did what was right every time he was confronted. He did what was right when Potiphar's wife came and tempted him morally. He said, I'm not going to do that. She lied about what has happened. He got thrown into prison. When he got thrown into prison, he just decided, I'm going to do what's right in here. And some guys down there forgot about him and left him, didn't care about him. But he said, I'm going to do what's right. Until finally one day, he interpreted those dreams for the guys in prison, and Pharaoh heard about it. And he showed up one day into Pharaoh's office. And Pharaoh said, now who are you? And here's my dream. And Joseph interprets that dream for him. And the results of Joseph doing right for probably, we think, about 14 years with nothing to show for it. At that moment, Pharaoh said, you know what, I'm going to put you in charge of really the whole known world at that time. All because every decision that he made was not based on where is it going to get me, but on doing what was right. So this verse means a lot to me, and I hope it's a help to you. Righteousness exalteth the nation, but sin is a reproach to any people. And as we finish this session, I know you're on your last lap here for the session. I hope you make decisions based on what's right. I know you will. Thank you for your time. We can pray. Let's do that. Let's pray together. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this body of legislators. And Lord, I ask today that you would give them wisdom. I pray today that you would help them make decisions. Father, I help them know what is right and then help them do what is right. Father, that's the hard part sometimes. Lord, I pray for their families, for their spouses and for their children. Some of them are here with them close. Some of them are way back home and they've been away from them a little bit. Lord, I pray today that you would bless their families and not have this time serving our state be a detriment to their family, but strengthen their families. Lord, we pray for our state that you'd help it to be a great place. We're thankful for the people here. Father, continue to bless it. We ask all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Are there any unanimous consents? The chair sees none. The chair recognizes the majority whip for a point of personal privilege.
Senate Resolution 751 by Senator Gooch of the 51st, a resolution congratulating the Lumpkin County High School Lady Indian basketball team for winning the 2022 GHSA Class 3A State Basketball Championship and for other purposes. Whereas the Lumpkin County High School Lady Indian basketball team has won its first state title with its historic victory over Greater Atlanta Christian Academy, finishing the season with a remarkable 30 wins and 1 loss. And whereas the phenomenal performance of this team is a clear indication of the outstanding athletic ability, dedication, hard work, and unity of purpose and spirit of each member of the team, its superb offensive and defensive talents, and the astute direction of head coach David Dowse. And now, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate that the members of this body congratulate the Lumpkin County High School Lady Indian basketball team for winning the 2022 GHSA Class 3A State Basketball Championship and extend best wishes for their continued success. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Ready? Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to bring your attention to a group of folks in the gallery. They're from Lumpkin County High School. These girls have worked hard for the last 2 years, and they have made it to the playoffs both years. This year, they won the state championship, the AAA, down in Macon at the Macon Complex. They're from Dahlonega. There's 9 girls on the team. They're all freshmen. No, there's 1 freshman, a sophomore, and the rest are juniors. No seniors. So guess what? They're coming back next year, and they're going to do it again. Girls, would y'all please stand and let's give these girls a congratulations and a warm Senate welcome. On the front row there on my right is Coach David Dowse. Coach, you did a great job with these girls, and you taught them not only how to play basketball, but also the great leadership and qualities of how to be a good person. I know they get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and go practice before school, because I know some of the girls and I know their parents have to get up to get them there. So thank you for your hard work and all you've done, and we look forward to another great year next year. On the back row, we have Superintendent Rob Brown. Rob, stand up. And Representative Wade. We normally don't recognize representatives in the Senate, but we'll make an exception today. Billy Kirk is our high school principal. Thank you, Billy, for being here. Once again, y'all give these guys a warm Senate welcome. Thank you very much.
Chair recognizes the good senator from the 12th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. It is my honor, colleagues, to introduce individuals from my district that have driven 3.5 hours, some 4, to get to this capital, their capital. And I am so happy to introduce these individuals that are United Way of Southwest Georgia's Reimagine Albany Equity Advancement Fund. Grantees. They were granted awards from United Way of Southwest Georgia that is headed by the person that I call my adopted daughter, Ms. Sharnae Motley, and I'm going to name just a few, and I want her to stand, please. We have people from Health and Housing, Utilities Equity. The grantees or the awards will take care of that kind of funding. And some of the programs that are featured here this morning are A Better Way Grocers, which is a mobile grocery store, okay? The Albany Museum of Art, Genesis Nonprofit, which focuses on sickle cell, the Randolph Family Connection that is headed by Ms. Dr. Kenita Murphy, who is my other adopted daughter. So Kenita, would you stand, please? Kenita? And would you all please give them a big hand? They got up really, really early this morning, and we're so appreciative. And will you all stand? Would you all stand so we can see you? Thank you so, so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 37th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Senate. I want to extend a warm welcome to my son Nathan and his wife Danielle and their two children, Charles and Eliza Ann. They're in the balcony today. I want to make them welcome. Thank y'all so much. Huh? I don't see them. They're supposed to, if they're not there, they will be there.
They're transitioning from here up there. Chair recognizes the senator from the 23rd with a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise today to honor our doctor of the day. Our doctor of the day is Dr. Jackson Elam. Dr. Elam grew up in the Augusta area, grew up in Martinez, went to Lakeside High School and on to the University of Georgia before completing his medical training at the Medical College of Georgia. He is the Chief of Hospital Medicine, Associate Chief of Medical Officer for Post-Acute Care, and the Chief Medical Officer for the Roosevelt Warm Springs Center. I want you to welcome our hospitalist of the day, Dr. Jackson Elam. Thank you. I yield the well.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 14th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. To stay in a lane of being able to recommend or recognize people, I have a resolution here. Many of you know that everything begins at Ledge Council. And in the back right now, we have Jennifer Burgess. Let me read this to you. Recognizing and commending Jennifer Burgess on her outstanding public service and devotion to the Senate, the Georgia General Assembly, and the Office of Legislative Counsel. She joined the Office of Legislative Counsel as Administrative Assistant on October 1, 2012. In recognition of her abilities and tremendous contribution to the smooth operations of the Office of Legislative Counsel, she was promoted to the position of Office Manager. In the midst of serving the members of the General Assembly in her 10th session, she deftly and cordially carries out her duties as Office Manager for the Office of Legislative Counsel, requiring familiarity not just with all 236 members, but legislative staff and lobbyists as well. Ladies and gentlemen, not only is this 10 years that we're recognizing her for this, but also to let her know that through a pandemic, that council, and she kept that intact for us. On a personal note, when I first came in, she was one of the first persons that I got to know. And I could tell you, many times we dropped the ball, but she was able to pick it up and make sure things got done. So to Jennifer Burgess, if we can just recognize her, again, across the aisle, she has done everything she can for us. So wherever Jennifer is, she was in the back. Oh, there she is. Jennifer, thank you so much for everything you've done.
I'll never forget when I first came in, when I was in the House, I walked into Leg Council as a rookie, and I believe you were my constituent in Forsyth County at the time, and we connected. So I don't know if that helped me or hurt me getting appointments, but thank you. Congratulations. Chair recognizes the senator from the 43rd with a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, colleagues. Today, I would like to recognize, celebrate, and bring attention to a very important group that does the work in the space of mental health. Silence the Shame Incorporated is dedicated to eliminating mental health stigma. They're dedicated to reducing health disparities and improving rates of suicide among vulnerable populations. Through community conversations, compelling content, culturally responsive programs, they aim to normalize the conversation, peel back the layers of shame, and promote mental health wellness for vulnerable and disparate population groups, older adults, and rural communities. Silence the Shame was branded to eliminate the shame and stigma of mental health challenges. Today, I would like to recognize these beautiful young people in the gallery. Shanti Das, who is the founder and CEO, Jewel Gooding, who is the executive director, and all those who came with you to celebrate today. Please welcome them to their state capitol for the work that they do in the mental health space. Please, if you have others to guests, please stand. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the will.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 31st for a point of personal privilege.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to take a couple minutes to recognize a young man that has done a little bit of work for me this session. He's going to be a graduating senior at North Paulding High School, the home of the Wolfpack, and is also dual enrolled at Kennesaw State University, Cooper Guyon. So Cooper, this past weekend, won the Georgia High School Association 2022 State Literacy Championship. This is the first championship of its kind brought to the North Paulding community. I just want to say that we're proud of Cooper's efforts representing our community on behalf of the state. Here at the state capitol, as he's working for the citizens and the students in our Senate 31st District. And just want to say we're proud of him and bring the trophy back home to North Paulding next year, Cooper. Thank you, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the Rules Chairman for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just brought this up. I had a Charlie Bethel moment earlier today, so I brought my tissue, but I'm not going there. We have some very distinguished guests today that were a part of a lot of ours past and our future from their guidance that we've received. I have been blessed that they came today to talk about me. Well, hold it. I've been blessed that they came today. And there are some great leaders that we've had in this state. And I'm not going to announce their names. I will let the President of the Senate do that. But these people are the folks who molded me into the man I am today. So we have a lot of great friends here today. And please make sure you greet them as well. Mr. President, I yield the way, and I'm not going to cry today. I'll do it later. Or again later. Thank you.
Well, as always, you went a little out of sequence there, but we're going to go ahead and call an audible. Chair would like to recognize the senator from the 6th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. As a child in the 1980s, I remember the fear that gripped my mother after a wave of child abductions and murders, horrific crimes that resulted in pictures on milk cartons as a way to change our approach, to consider how to protect our children in a world that can be very scary. And for many of you, it even resulted in a show, America's Most Wanted. If y'all will remember, after John Walsh's young son was abducted from a shopping mall in Florida and brutally murdered. So before session ends, I want to bring this chamber's attention to a bill I authored to strengthen our laws to protect our children and modernize our child abuse and sexual assault laws. I call it the Protect Children Act. It's SB 506. And what that act would do, it would require more training for all school personnel to prevent child sexual abuse and trafficking. It would extend the statute of limitations to bring in action for certain sexual offenses committed against children so that justice can be done. It would protect children online from predators, taking into account the widespread use of social media among today's youth, and taking into account how predators use the web to groom and track and lure our most vulnerable. You know, I'm the mother of 2 school-age children. One is a 13-year-old girl who is on her phone probably more than anything else with TikTok, and I don't even know sometimes. So I want to make sure that she is safe at school, at home, if she's on her phone, if she's on her computer. Period. Hard stop. The Protect Children Act helps accomplish this. I appreciate your time, and I yield the well.
All right, we've got some extremely special guests with us over there. I can feel the weight and tension coming from this wall over here. Maybe some of you members also do. So we've got some very special members, and I'm only as good as the paperwork they give me. So if I miss somebody's name, raise your hand. We've got former Pro Tem Eric Johnson, former Pro Tem Tommy Williams, former Rules Chairman Don Balfour, former Majority Whip Mitch Seabaugh, former Majority Leader Bill Stevens, former Majority Leader Tom Price, former Majority Leader Ronnie Chance. We've got Amanda Seals and Morgan Cook with us. If I missed anybody, raise your hand and we'll help. But thank you so much for being here. Now look, when I first saw this crowd show up, I figured there was a big issue on the table and y'all were kind of hired guns. But then I realized we're here to celebrate the life and legacy of the Rules Chairman over here. And now, probably a lot like some of these people on the wall over here, some will remember you in a good vein. Some of you will not be remembered in such a not good vein, but you will be remembered for sure. So with that, Mr. Secretary, can you please read a resolution, please?
Senate Resolution 681 by Senators Miller of the 49th, Dugan of the 30th, Kennedy of the 18th, and many others. A resolution commending and recognizing Senator Jeff Mullis and for other purposes. Whereas Senator Mullis has a long and consistent record of service to the community and to the state and has been recognized as one of the most dynamic and committed citizens of Georgia. And whereas he has diligently and conscientiously devoted innumerable hours of his time, talents, and energy towards the betterment of his community. And whereas Senator Mullis was first elected to the Georgia State Senate in 2000 to serve Senate District 53 and is currently the longest-serving Republican in the Senate. And whereas born and raised in Chickamauga, Georgia, Senator Mullis was formerly a fire chief and an economic developer in Northwest Georgia. And whereas Senator Mullis is currently the chairman of the Senate Rules Committee and the chairman of the Economic Development Subcommittee of Senate Appropriations and has served on multiple other committees during his time in the Senate. And whereas he has been recognized by Georgia Trend magazine as one of the 100 most influential people in Georgia for 6 consecutive years. And whereas Senator Mullis has served with honor and distinction with the Georgia State Senate, it is abundantly fitting and proper that this outstanding man and his accomplishments of this remarkable and distinguished Georgian be appropriately recognized. Now therefore be it resolved by the Senate that the members of this body commend and recognize Senator Jeff Mullis for his many valuable contributions on behalf of the citizens of Georgia and extend best wishes for the future. That completes the order.
Now, before I try to jam this resolution through, I want to just caution all the members, we've got some very influential senators that are behind this resolution. So I'm going to ask this question very, very seriously. Is there any objection to the adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none, and the resolution is adopted. And I'm certainly glad I've had the chance to get to know you as a lieutenant governor as the rules chairman, because as a House rep, I didn't like you very much. With that, I'd like to recognize the President Pro Tem for a point of personal privilege.
Senator from the 53rd, if you would join me. And I see he's well equipped with his box of Kleenex. This business of politics, this business of policy making, this business of politics is really about relationships. It's really about building relationships and honoring relationships. And I think Chairman Mullis has built a career on relationships, building relationships and developing relationships. This business of politics is about teamwork. Nobody wins on their own. In politics, you got to have team members, and everybody's got to work together. Now, you know, he says he's against any conspiracy he doesn't know about. He didn't know about this conspiracy, and I don't think he's against it. He has affected so many lives in so many positive ways, not just in his district, but throughout the state. And I will never forget the first conversation I ever had with Jeff Mullis.
Not true.
I was sitting in my office and my phone rang and I looked over there and it said, Jeff Mullis, Chickamauga, Georgia. I said, I wonder who that is. And I picked up the phone. He said, is this Butch Miller? I said, yes. He said, if you don't do so-and-so, 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 you ain't gonna get elected. Click. And I've taken out the colorful language he used. But the first time I met him, he was threatening me. But he's been a great friend to many in this building, many around this city, and many throughout the state. And we just thank him for his service, and we give him this resolution. Thank you all very much. And I would ask other members to come up and speak to the resolution. I would really love that. Thank you all very, very much. I love you, baby.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 20th for a point of personal privilege. This is your chance to air it out.
Yeah, I may need to borrow the Kleenex. Seriously, I love Jeff Mullis. Appreciate all he's done for me, and he immediately kind of befriended me and took me under his wing for better or worse on that, and we have had a lot of good times together. We don't always agree, but he has been wise counsel, and he's a loyal friend. We'll sorely miss him. I think we need to take our business very seriously, and we do, but we don't need to take ourselves too seriously. And Jeff Mullis gives us some levity in tense times that we sorely need, and he's a compassionate man. He cuts up a good bit, but we need it, and he's done a great job for the state of Georgia, and he's really a legend, and I appreciate his friendship. Thank you. I yield the well.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 56th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. I remember the first time I got to meet my good friend, and I'll break the rules, Chairman Jeff Mullis. I went up to his district in 2009 when I first started running for office, and he put his arm around me. He said, You'll go far here. What's your name again? You know, Jeff, your humor is amazing. You have brought so much joy to so many of us here. But we sometimes get lost in the fact that you are just so much fun to be around and forget all the wonderful things that you do. I've always told everybody that I've come across that Chairman Jeff Mullis is actually Columbo, for those of us that are old to remember that old TV show, of someone who came off sometimes a little goofy, like he didn't know what was going on, but he was by far the smartest guy in the room. And you have passed more legislation in this building than I dare say most everyone put together. And even though it came with a laugh and a smile, at the end of the day, you've done more here than most people who have ever walked through these doors. So thank you for your friendship and thank you for your service. Godspeed, my friend.
Chair recognizes the Dean of the Senate for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. Jeff, I just want to let you know that I really, really appreciate your friendship. And that's not rare among those of us who've served quite a while in the Senate. You can lose sight of the fact that we are all senators and elected by our particular constituency. We lose that fact sometimes. But Jeff Mullis is a conservative that represented his constituency, but didn't forget the statesmanship aspect of his duties as well. That is just so important, and you has left a mark on the legislature here in the state Senate that will last for a long time. I certainly appreciated that. The first time I met Jeff, I believe I was chair of the local assistance grants program. And we were trying to get some money for his district, and I literally put it in there, and I think he was a bit surprised by that. But you got to learn that, you know, there are permanent issues, but no permanent enemies. You should never approach the legislature, the Senate, in that context. But you should approach it in the way that we're here to do the people's business. And as long as you don't lose sight of that, you'll be okay, as Jeff Mullis did. And I think you'll be your mark is indelible, and a long, long friendship. You have my friendship. The people of the 53rd will miss you sorely. God bless you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Chair recognizes the Majority Leader for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. We've been blessed to have a great Rules Chairman, a great senator, a great statesman amongst us, and Don Balfour, we appreciate you being here. But today's about Jeff Mullis. I couldn't resist it. You were going to dehydrate. You were crying so much over there. I figured I'd put some levity into it. No, I do. Like everybody else is coming up here, I appreciate you for who you are. Can't tell you how many times you've been mad at me and would never support me for anything again until the next day. And you got a lot more people that are going to be here behind me to come talk, because we still have rules meetings that they've got to come before yet between now and the end of session. So, again, thank you for all you've done for the state. Thank you. The part I will miss most is all the stories I hear about stuff outside of session that you were involved with here that are obviously all not true, that everybody else just remembers perfectly. So we will miss you. Best of luck, and I look forward to the rest of the session here with you and seeing what you got coming in the future. I yield the well.
Chair recognizes the Minority Leader for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President and members of the Senate. It's a pleasure for me to stand here and call Jeff Mullis my friend. I have to thank him for all the advice, unsolicited, that he has given me since I became the Minority Leader. He said to me, I'll help you get legislation for your members, and that's what he did. You know, there's that saying, when a person shows you who they are, believe them. And so I believed him when he showed me who he is. And he's a man of his word. He has great humor that I thoroughly enjoy. We have a good time in rules because he's open and honest, and well, that's what I can see anyway. And it's a pleasure to see all my old friends and members that I have served with through the years. Eric, thank you for being here. Ronnie and Mitch, Tom, and Dawn. It's great to see all of you. And that's something I'm still hanging around here. But thank you, Jeff, for being who you are, and I'm looking forward to your retirement. And I hope it's a great one.
I've got a sign-up sheet here that you can join.
And on that note, I'll take my seat, and good fortune to you.
All of a sudden, there's a bunch of people that remember some good Jeff Mullis stories that just showed up on the screen. Chair recognizes the senator from the 2nd for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm here to say thank you to the senator from the 53rd. One thing you can say about Jeff Mullis is that he's fair. He's fair, and he's fair. You know, before COVID, I often had the opportunity to go out to dinner and break bread with the senator from the 53rd. And there were often things we disagreed on. But let me tell you, he actually listened to your point of view. And maybe we didn't always agree, but he listened, and he was fair, and he just had a good heart. Jeff, thank you for your service. But more importantly, thank you for your friendship. And I can tell you, we used to sit down and drink sweet tea and just have a good time, or maybe something that looked like tea. But when we got together, we talked about, you know, what was great for our state. But you can tell in his heart, he meant well, and he wanted to do the right thing for the people of this great state. And sometimes we are very partisan, but friendship is something that we can always have in this chamber. And Jeff has been a friend to everyone in this chamber. He's been fair to everyone in this chamber. And Mr. Chairman, I want to thank you for your service. But more importantly, I want to thank you for your heart and your sense of giving and your sense of understanding everybody's views and everybody's points. So I leave you with this. Georgia is a better place because you served. Thank you, sir.
You better get another box of Kleenexes. We got more buttons pushed. Chair recognizes the senator from the 11th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. As most of you who've been here a little while, you don't see me up here too much. But there are times where you just can't leave something alone. Senator from the 53rd and I couldn't be much different. I'm shy. He's not. I still have hair. He doesn't have so much. I'm thin. I'm not going to say anymore. But the senator from the 53rd, from the day I got here, became a close friend of mine. Before I was sworn in, a few of us got together. A lobbyist put that together, but he put me and Jeff and a couple of our former members, some of whom are in this room, in a room together. We broke bread, and truly the thing I remember from that meeting, and I've heard it over and over and over, Grasshopper, in this room, it's all about relationships. And, you know, if you don't remember anything else but that, you'll go a long way in this building. But the thing I'll remember most is how proud I finally was when I became an FOM. FOM means friend of Mullis. And, you know, it was amazing how sometimes bills went through on both sides of this chamber because you were an FOM. And as hard as it is to get things done around here, I needed all the help I could get. And I want to let him know how much I appreciate his friendship. I dearly love him like a brother. And even this morning, I went by, and, you know, you kind of expect the rules chairman to roll their eyes when you're the 30th person to walk in his door. But he didn't. It was like, come on in, Dean, let's have a cup of coffee. What's on your mind? And that's just priceless. And so I just wanted to share my thoughts, even coming from this shy, introverted country boy, how much this extrovert over there meant to me. So love you, Jeff. Thanks for being here.
For what purpose does the minority leader rise?
Parliamentary Inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Is it not true that I did not see Bill Stevens over in the corner?
I'm certain the gentlewoman knows of what she speaks. Chair recognizes the senator from the 18th, your seatmate. Can't imagine what he's going to say.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning. It's funny the president said I'm his seatmate, because that's one of the things I was going to start with, which is I have had the pleasure and endured being Chairman Mullis' seatmate for 6 years now. And it wasn't by accident. So my first 2 years I was 2 over, and the third year I got seated next to him because of some shuffle. And every year since then I have paid off whoever actually had that seat, usually with a bottle of some kind of libation, to let me sit next to Mullis. And so I have had the pleasure of having that seat for 6 years, and the things that we've talked about, I can't repeat. It's been a lot of fun, and it has been wonderful. I would love to tell you I have been and have supposed to have served the role of Jeff Mullis's filter, but you would know that I have failed miserably if that were my role. There is no Jeff Mullis filter. It does not exist. Right, Nan? Right, Senator from the 36th? But I got to tell this story on myself. One of Chairman Mullis's favorite stories to tell, at least on me, was I was the newbie. I'd been here maybe 2 weeks. And he does what we all like to do to each other, which is press the button to go to the front or to be called on. And I hear this voice sort of kind of filtering in through what I'm trying to understand what's going on in this chamber, and it's Senator from the 18th, and I finally realize it's Lieutenant Governor Casey Cagle calling me, and I stood up. I didn't know what to do, and so I sat back down, and I stood back up, and I started to break out in a sweat, and I sat back down, and I stood up for a third time, and I looked over, and Jeff is in a full convulsion, just laughing. He got me better than anybody had doing that. That was the first time. I want to thank these folks here. Thanks for making the trip. Mr. Rules Chair Balfour, thank you for putting it together and getting all these folks here. That, I think, probably says as much or more that y'all cared to come today than what we'll get up here and say for a few moments. Last thing I want to say, 2 things I think of with Jeff Mullis. One, y'all have already said, he is the master of relationships. You don't get anywhere in this building, you're not effective, and you're certainly not going to be remembered if you don't have good relationships. But the second thing I would think of and say, Mr. Chairman, for all this time, you make it fun. You just make it fun. And we appreciate that. It takes the stress level down. It takes the anxiety, not totally away, but it makes the unbearable not only bearable, but something we look forward to coming into this chamber, because you're going to have something funny to say for us. We go see you in your office, and you're going to make it fun. It doesn't matter what it is. So thank you for that on behalf of all of us. Thank you. Mr. President, I yield the well.
Chair recognizes the pro tem.
Mr. President, Parliamentary Inquiry.
State your inquiry.
There are a number of guests here, and I'm sure a couple of them would like to say a couple of words if we could call on them. I know they have business outside the Capitol. If we could indulge them. Balfour.
We'll pick we'll pick one representative of the alumni. Chair recognizes. Chair recognizes former pro tem of this august chamber, Eric Johnson.
I forgot the rules. I spent more time up here than down there because remember when we were up here the first time, the lieutenant governor was there, the other party, so we had a little bit of fun. But Jeff got to participate in that. He's been a great member, and the fact that he's the last member of the minority party for the Republicans in this chamber just meant a lot to us to come up here and honor that and remember the switch and the excitement and the stories. And hopefully the minority party won't have those stories to tell soon. But it was a big change. He has had a great sense of humor, and we met with the caucus, the majority caucus this morning, and shared some stories, probably none of which would be appropriate in the public forum, so we won't do that. But he loves his district, he loves his family, and he loves a good meal. But he's been a great member, and y'all have all talked about that sense of humor, and that's important. And I can't imagine sitting next to him for 6 years. But he is an awesome member. He'll miss him. I'm sure his wife and his kids are going to look forward to him coming back. And thank you so much, Mr. President Pro Tem and Lieutenant Governor, for allowing us to be on the floor, and appreciate the opportunity to share this special moment with this body. Y'all do great work. It was an honor to be in the Senate. Thank y'all very much.
Thank you. So I'm reminded of the first time I met the senator from the 53rd. I'll follow the rules since I have to. I'm a House rep. I somehow figured out a way to pass my first House bill. And I said, what do I do now? And they said, you got to go meet Jeff Mullis, the rules chair. There I go. I broke the rule. And so I show up in his office, and there's a big board hanging up, and it's whether or not we voted yes or no on some fireworks bill, which turned out to be the worst vote I ever made. And every constituent that owns a dog is still sending me emails. I show up there, and he brings me in the office, and he gives me this warm reception, and I go through about 10 minutes worth of what the bill was all about, and he says, now tell me again what that bill was all about. So I had to go back through it again, and at the end, somebody else mentioned this. He goes, now what's your name again? Somehow, some way, we figured out a way to get that passed, but certainly glad we've improved from that moment. All right, we've got a number more to call. Feel free to exit as you need to, but feel free to stay as long as you want. Chair recognizes the senator from the 36th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President, colleagues. Well, I don't know where to start. It's been a long and storied journey down here with Rules Chairman Mullis. But as Elizabeth Taylor said to one of her last husbands, I won't be long. Let me say that, and we're repeating each other now, but it bears repetition that Senator Mullis totally gets it about relationships. And we have one that I've enjoyed since I've been here in the Senate. And you know, I understood in the House, as members left years ago, they would give these soaring oratory about what a wonderful friendships that they had. And I was just getting there, and I thought, is that right? You know, I was in that great big 180-seat chamber. It is true. Now that I've got some years on me, I have a full and deep appreciation of the relationships that we've built together. And the ties that bind in the Senate, I think, are very strong ones, where there are 56 of us, and we can really get to know each other if we invest ourselves in doing that, and that's what the chairman of the Rules Committee has done. And you know, I'm up here lauding him as we send him on his way, and he was the author of these, y'all heard those Buckhead bills? One or two? But that's not going to sever our relationship. It's much more, it's much deeper and more firmly rooted than that. It's a friendship that I'll treasure while both of us are still here on the earth. And you cannot find someone in this building, I think it's safe to say, that you haven't reached out your hand to, Senator, and offered advice and helped. And those are the people that I remember the most. Denmark Groover in the House. That's what he did. You came in, it didn't matter your credentials, it didn't matter your party, your race, where you were from. If I can help you, I will. That was what he said, and that's been the rules chairs. You've lived it day by day, and I'm just they used to talk around about how Senator Mullis slept in my district, and I didn't want anybody to get the wrong idea, but we went to dinner and laughed about that on many occasions as he and his roommate rented a lovely place over in one of my neighborhoods. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Senator Mullis. Thank you, good and dear friend to all of us.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 28th. I can't imagine what kind of relationship y'all had.
Thank you, Mr. President. So this coming Friday marks the one-year commemoration of when the EF4 tornado hit Noonan. And if y'all can remember, the first day back in session after that tornado hit, I came down to the well, and I was very emotional that day. The weight of the whole situation was just, it was hitting me hard, and you know, even the senator from the 12th came down and brought me some Kleenex, and when I finally kind of gathered myself to where I could get some words out of my mouth, and I started speaking, and I started scanning the room, and I kind of started over this way, and I was looking in each of your eyes, and I really could feel your empathy towards me, and more importantly towards my district, and I know y'all could feel the pain that I was feeling. And as I'm scanning and I'm scanning and I'm scanning, and I get over to the senator from the 53rd, and he's sitting there going, and I think that really just ties into everything he told each and every one of us from day one was, take this job serious, just don't take yourself serious. And I, you know, and here's this king, and you know, in my mind, when I come in, he's a legend. He was already a legend. 22 years of service, and this man that has built his career on relationship building, and through 22 years of relationships, I just want to point out that only 6 of them came down to honor you. So to all 6 of your relationships that you built in 22 years, congratulations. And I hope you come down in this well today, and I hope you cry, and I hope you look at me when you do that. But it has been a true honor to serve with you. You truly do understand the value of relationships, and you build on those. And I think back on you know, I read something, I think the Dalai Lama said one time, if you can help somebody, you help them. If you can't, you get out of the way. And I think you've carried your career out that way. You've helped where you could help, and if you couldn't help us, you let us do our thing, and really just kind of, you've always told the truth. You've always put us in our place when we needed to be put in our place, and I just thank you for that. And it truly has been an honor to serve with you, and look forward to seeing you for many more years. Thank you. I yield the well.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 43rd for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have to also give celebratory shout out to the senator from the 53rd. I can't look at him because you know I'll probably cry. So when I left the House and got elected to the Senate, one of my leaders at the time came to me and she said, Senator from the 34th, I've got to introduce you to some people. And she took me around this chamber and she introduced me to people. But the very first person she introduced me to was to the senator from the 53rd. And I was like, why is she introducing me to him? Not in a bad way, but I'm thinking like, I didn't know he was the rules chair. Because in the House, I could have never gotten to the rules chair. Very true story. I've said this to him in person, but I want to say it publicly, that he came, when I finally did get to meet him, he came to me and he was very sincere in saying, I want to help you. I'll help you. Let me know what I can do to help you. And I believed it, but I didn't believe it because I had been in another chamber. And the more I worked in this body, he made it more believable. And he became so trustworthy that there were times when I had great ideas for a bill and he said, my people in my district don't like that one. And then there were other, and there was only one, then there were other times when he said, oh yeah, I'll help you. And he's done that with every bill that I presented. The one thing that I said to my colleagues in the House is bragging about the fact that I can go to my rules chair and have a conversation. So they found out how wonderful he is and started coming over, bringing him cookies and cakes. And I said, no, stop, don't kill him. I don't need you to kill him with all of those sweets. I need him to be here. And going into the rules chamber, it was not intimidating because he makes it fun. The last bill I presented in the rules committee, I walk in the room and this song is playing. And it's by, you have to Google it, it's by Sir Mix-a-Lot. And the lyrics are, I like big houses, cars. That's not the lyrics, but I'm just, And I was like, Senator Mullis, what's going on? Y'all better turn it down before we turn up. And then I heard another genre of that same song, and I said, this guy is definitely going to be missed. So Senator from the 53rd, you've been a friend, you've done what you said you were going to do. I appreciate you, this body appreciates you, and you will be very, 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 very missed. So thank you.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 46th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to thank the senator from the 53rd for his great friendship over the years. He was the second senator that I ever spoke to. First was Governor Kemp, who I was taking his seat. He gave me a little guidance. And I get a phone call from Chickamauga, and at the time, the senator from the 53rd was the vice chair of the majority caucus. By then, they had taken over. And his job was recruiting candidates to run for these seats. And it was a lot harder back then. I believe the numbers were, when you first took over in 2003 session, was a 30-member majority. By the time I got in, it was up to 32, but it was an active recruitment process to try to get somebody to have the guts to run against the Democratic Party that had controlled Georgia for 150 years. So, just with that bubbly personality on the phone, I knew I liked this guy, and he was so encouraging and enthusiastic, it just sort of fired you up. And you can see he did his job well, because over the years, the majority grew up to as high as 38 at one time. So I get down here and I seek him out. I wanted to put the face to the name. And I was probably one of the more miserable senators my first week in the Senate. I didn't know anybody. I was living by myself in a hotel room. Nobody invited me to dinners. I'd go to the receptions at the depot, and then I'd go home. It'd be 6:30, and I'd sit there and watch TV and think, boy, this sure is fun. So I mentioned it to senator from the 53rd, and his little sidekick at the time was now Superior Court Judge Bill Hamrick. And they ran together like, Mutt and Jeff all the time. They were roommates and lived together, best buddies. And so they started taking me under their wing, taking me out to dinners, and one thing led to another. Some of the most greatest experiences I've had is being at dinners and hearing the Jeff Mullis show as he entertains. And we're going to repeat all of those corny jokes of yours for years to come, so you won't be forgotten. But there's one story the senator from 36 mentioned, that he lived in her district for a while in some house over in Grant Park. And I remember before those days, he was like these guys in the United States Congress. He lived in LOB for a couple of years. He and his roommate, Senator Hamrick, slept on their sofas in LOB, and they would go down the bathroom in the hall on the 3rd floor and brush their teeth at night. And then in the morning, they'd get up and they'd go over to Georgia State, where we have privileges to their facilities there, and they would shower there. I'm sure he worked out most of the time there in the mornings, and popped into the Capitol with their coat and ties on from over there. So they were true troopers there, making self-sacrifice to be public servants. So one night there in LOB, and they're sleeping on their sofas, Mullis gets up and has to go to the restroom. When you go out there into that 3rd hall floor on the right, that door locks behind you. You got to have your little card to get back in. So as the story goes, which I believe is true since Hamrick told it, as he goes to the restroom in his boxer shorts only on the 3rd floor of LOB, and there are cameras in LOB that protect us, and so security sees this strange man wandering around in his boxer shorts there on the 3rd floor, and they start going around the offices trying to figure out what's going on. They come across Hamrick. They said, "Have you heard any disturbances? There's a half-naked man down there in the hallway." Hamrick swears to goodness, he said, "Don't know what in the world you're talking about. I hadn't seen anybody." They left him locked down there for a while, but let him back in. But that's a humorous story, and just one of, there are thousands we could tell, but all of them, you've brought us great joy and merriment and happiness and made this job more bearable. And I appreciate all you've done for me and all our colleagues. Thank you to the 53rd.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 34th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Senate. I rise because I have been here 20 years in the Senate. Of course, I did my first term over in the House. And I bring that forward because I want you to understand, I was listening to Eric Johnson, who was here when I got here, serving in this body, and I had a chance to serve with him. But what he had mentioned made me remember I left a Democratic House and came to the Senate where Georgians voted a Democratic Senate, but they also voted the governor, Sonny Perdue, the governor of Georgia, that had been a Democrat, that had switched parties, and he got 4 switchers to make the chamber Republican. But Jeff Mullis never changed one iota. He's been my friend from day one, and he's my friend today and the day he leaves. He has been genuine. I don't care how you try to haze me. When you haze me in rules about my little bill, I can take it. But Jeff was saying, I told you I'm gonna help you, so I can take it. Because I got a friend. That's a friend for life. It's not a friend about parties. It's a friend about your Jesus and my Jesus. The Jesus in you see the Jesus in me. And I just love you with all my love I can give to anybody, because you have been genuine. You have been fair. Unlike some of your colleagues, you have never been mean to me. So I can say that standing here publicly. I will miss you. Don't know who your replacement's going to be, but if they're just half of who you have shown to be, then it's going to be okay. Godspeed, wish you the best, and I'm going to get up to Chickamauga one day, and I hope you remember who I am. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 31st for a point of personal privilege.
So I'm going to be brief, but it is funny and interesting how life comes full circle. 20 years ago, when I guess, from the point in time I joined this body, I worked as an aide and an intern for the late senator from the 24th, Joey Brush, and the former senator of the 42nd, Senator Pollock. And Senator Mullis, I remember, coming down here to working in Joey's office, and the short, stocky guy carrying around his fire hat from North Georgia, acting like he owned the building as a freshman. It was a funny guy. He was funny then, but he was serious. And over the years, I know we have found ourselves on, agreeing on issues, agreeing on campaigns. Some days, we don't. But the one thing I appreciate, Jeff, 20 years ago, being a young man working in this chamber, when we were in the minority party and literally standing in the back of that room behind the desk of the senator from the 42nd right now, when the flag debate happened in this room and the room was cleared, watching how the senator handled himself, how the senator, was respectful to all of his colleagues, whether he agreed or disagreed with them. But most importantly, for him being convicted of what he believed in. And in this day and age, politicians walk into this building, from all parts of Georgia, thinking they're going to do one thing, they're going to do another, or whatever. But rarely in this day and age that we live in do we find somebody convicted about what they believe in, whether you agree with them or not. And Senator Mullis, I appreciate you for being convicted and not being afraid of whether it's people in your district or people across the state to get the job done. And hopefully we'll have more convicted people into the future following the work that Senator Mullis has done. So to my friend, I appreciate you and the work you've done for our community in Northwest Georgia, and God bless you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 33rd for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President, my fellow senators, colleagues, friends, and y'all, including the senator from the 53rd. I just want to say that I have a great appreciation for the senator. He's the type of person, no matter who you are, he's warm and open, and he was willing to work with you regardless of your affiliation. And that says a lot. His sense of humor reminds me of when I was in the Air Force. I managed personnel for the pilots and navigator school, and the pilots always had a sense of humor no matter how important or dangerous the mission was. They always had a joke or something to make you laugh to try and ease off the pressure. He reminds me of our Air Force core values: excellence in all you do, integrity, and service of others before self. I remember the first time I met him, the first day I came in here, he walked me to my office, and I thought that was very nice of him. But 2 hours later, he came back and told me I was in the wrong office, but I should have known something was up because the janitors kept asking me to pass them a mop or a broom. But I just want to let you know, sir, I really have come to a great appreciation for you, not only as a senator, not only as a rules chairperson, but as a man, a human being. God bless you and good luck. I yielded well, y'all.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 54th for a point of personal privilege.
You're not going to cry, are you?
Thank you, Mr. President, and I've seen a side of the good chairman that most people in this room haven't seen, and it's just, when I came into this body 6 years ago, he was assigned as my mentor, and I thought, oh boy, this is going to be fun. But he was assigned as my mentor, and I'll never forget, I was sitting on 2 rows behind him when I first got here, and there was an amendment to a bill that went through, and I was one of the co-sponsors of the amendment to the bill. And not consulting with my mentor before offering that amendment, I signed off on the amendment. And he stood up and he turned around and just looked at me and said, "Really, Chuck? Really?" And I just stood there and smiled. And he just smiled back at me. But that was one of the things, but I just, seeing a side of Senator Mullis that I think back of the most is just going back to the time when I was a state juvenile probation officer, but I was also one of those grunts in the world of politics that helped all those folks that were standing over here get to majority back in the 90s. I was chairman of my county Republican Party from 97 to 2005, doing all the grunt work in the field. And I got this call from this gentleman, Jeff Mullis, and asked me to come to his office in Fort Oglethorpe, and I went and met with him. And he just had some questions about campaign. I think this was after he lost in 98 and was coming back for 2000, was just shoring up everything and wanted my insight about running campaigns and doing that effectively. We had that meeting. But it was, while I was chairman of the Republican Party, I get to be the only one in this room that has the honor, Jeff, of saying, I got to do grunt work for you and put up many signs to help my friend get elected to the state senate. And it's my honor as your friend to see you in this day and see those tears in our caucus morning this morning, and to see that you need that box of tissues, because we're gonna need one before it's all over. I thank you for your service. I thank you for your friendship. I thank you for your leadership. And speaking on behalf of all of Northwest Georgia, as I sit next to you as we cover the whole corner of the state, I can speak for all of Northwest Georgia and just say thank you for your many years of service. Thank you for beyond your district. You've served all of Northwest Georgia, not just your district, but all of us. And I just thank you so much for all that you've meant, not only to Northwest Georgia, but to the entire state of Georgia. God bless you, and thank you for all your years of service.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 8th for brief remarks. That means under an hour.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to say this. Thank you for being so good to me when I came in. All these people here today are talking about your public life and how successful you've been at that. And there's absolutely no question about that, the friendships you've made. But I also have had the opportunity to get to know Greg. And I'm going to tell you, Greg is a great young man. And the fact that you've raised him shows that you've not only been successful in your public life, but you've been successful in your private life. And I cannot think of anything that would be more gratifying or would mean more to any father than to be sitting in this chamber today with my son and all of your friends be talking about how much they think about you. And I tell you, I'm thankful that I've gotten to know Greg, but I'm thankful that he was here today, because he's going to be able to tell his grandchildren how great of a man that you were. Mr. President, I yield the will.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 7th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. Since I am speaking on behalf of the senator from the 53rd, he probably would like to say I probably need my stool today. But I can't add much to what's been said. Jeff, you're a dear friend. You've been good to me in my 10 years of service here. I remember when I sat down with my predecessor after I had won the election to serve in this body, and we went down through the list of all my colleagues, and I'm not going to repeat everything that was said, but But he had very nice things to say about you, and I can promise you that they have all come true. And I remember, many of you don't know about this because a lot of you were not here my freshman year. But I will never forget my first trip to the Senate Rules Committee as a freshman member of this body. I was the first freshman to go to Senate Rules, which meant I got the brunt end of the stick, so to speak. And when I got to Senate Rules to present my little bill before the Senate Rules Committee, I remember walking up there to present my particular bill, and everybody else had walked up and stood before the committee. And I proceeded to stand before the committee, and the chairman of the committee, the senator from the 53rd, proceeded to remind me, or proceeded to tell me that, Senator, actually, you need to sit down for your presentation. And so there were 3 chairs at the time. There were 3 chairs sitting in front of the committee, and I reached to pull out one of the chairs, which was empty, and he said, no, Senator, that's not the chair you're supposed to sit in. And so I reached to grab the other chair, and he said, oh, no, Senator, that's not the seat you're supposed to sit in. So I proceeded to pull out the third and last chair, which happened to have 3 of those big, thick yellow book phone books sitting in said chair. And they were about this thick in the chair. And I proceeded to pull that chair out. He said, yes, Senator, that is your seat. And so he provided me a booster seat to present my bill before the Senate Rules Committee. And I went back 3 times to get my bill out of that Rules Committee and proceeded to sit on that booster chair every time I went to present that particular bill. And I finally got it out of Rules, and I think the senator might have had a little bit to do with the fact that I stood on a pedestal in this well when I presented my first particular bill. But Senator Mullis, there's a number of stories that we could tell. I think, I'll jokingly say I think part of the reason I think you might be leaving is you don't have your punching bag to pick on anymore, because I'm leaving too. But I'll miss opportunities of pressing your button. I'm sure you'll miss those of pressing mine. I'm sure you're going to miss Red Coat Day, among other things. But it's been a pleasure to serve with you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for your service to this state. I appreciate your friendship. I yield the will.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 40th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. To the senator from Chickamauga, you've been here for a long time. And this is how I kind of measure how long you've been here. When you started in 2001, I believe, I was in that other chamber, and I was busy making babies. And the baby I was working on when you started here in this Senate chamber is the kid I keep talking about from this well who's about ready to graduate from Georgia Tech. So that's how long you've been here, and that's a long time. I got in trouble with you one time after taking a certain picture outside your office door and then posting it on Twitter with some comments. And when you get a text from the rules chair at home on the weekend, you done realize you've messed up, right? So I worried about it for the rest of the weekend, and on Monday morning came and put my hand on your back and told you a story about what flags mean to me, because the picture had something to do with flags. And I told you the story about this grand American flag back here and what it meant to my grandmother, who was a volunteer with the American Legion, and how my grandmother's spirit always goes through me when I say the pledge to that flag. And I told you that story, and you listened. And by the time I finished, we looked at each other, and we understood each other at a new level. And that illustrates the kind of person you are. I write a newsletter. It's called Sally's Senate Snapshot. And I try to describe things that happen here in a very interesting and entertaining way. I always have some sort of theme, like baseball or thunderstorms or fast-moving trains, or last week, for some reason, it was about Star Trek. But I started writing about you. You've been a character in that newsletter. And I started writing about you, and I wrote something that happened, and I'm like, I'm going to get in trouble for that. But I kept it in there anyway because it was accurate, it was fair. And so you've become a main character in that newsletter. And every time I wrote something, I was like, I'm going to get in trouble. And then again, I didn't. But I'm here to say that it's going to be a lot harder to make that newsletter interesting without you being here. So I appreciate you providing me that content, and you're going to be missed.
The chair recognizes the senator from the 50th, the roommate of the senator from the 53rd, and he's bringing paperwork with him. And there is no recognition of non-disclosure agreements in this chamber.
Great. Thank you, Mr. President. I have had the honor and privilege of carrying the title, the Rules Chairman's roommate, for the past 2 years, and I do appreciate and have a lot of stories that I can't tell. But I want to tell a couple that won't get me in too much trouble. I always appreciate the senator from the 53rd's honesty. Sometimes it can sting a little bit, but the very first time I was in the well, I was so nervous, and I'm sure y'all can relate, but I came down and I was walking, and he went like this. He put his hand like this, and he said, come here, come here. I said, okay. He said, okay, don't ever do this again. Don't ever do this again. Really, don't ever do this again. And next time, make sure you do this. But other than that, you were great. I said, well, thank you, Jeff. But now, every time I come up to the well, I remember those things. And that's kind of how this senator from the 53rd has helped me, and I think he's helped a lot of other people as a mentor to help guide us through this. And I can't imagine a Senate without you. I said I had several stories, but there's one story that I want to tell that happened before I was even elected, and I was actually in college. I was an intern. I was assigned to watch the Senate and watch the bills as they go through, so I was in Senate Rules almost every day, and as an intern who he didn't need to pay me any attention, didn't know who I was, anytime I came across him, he shook my hand, said hello, and was always kind and patient. And I think there are a lot of people in this building who only extend a hand or try to speak with people when they think they can get something in return. And the senator from the 53rd, he just cares about people. He cares about how he makes people feel. And I think he is a true leader by example. And I just thank you, and you're going to be missed. Mr. President, I yield the well.
You've got a lot of friends. And they don't even need, there's not that many bills and rules left. Chair recognizes the senator from the 53rd.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's going to be quick because I'm not doing my tearful goodbye until later in the session, which isn't far away. But I just want to say a couple of things from the senator from the 28th. Those are only the 6 they invited. And the senator from the 46, I wear tighty whities, not boxer shorts. So even though that's too much information, I just had to set that straight. But I just want to say thank you. I love serving here. I love this chamber. I love the people I've met in my journey to today, and I simply love you all. I enjoyed serving with you, and I look forward to the last few days with you. But God bless you, and I'll be back, as Arnold Schwarzenegger said. I yield the well, Mr. President.
Oh, that was great, and I will never get that vivid image out of my mind that was just planted, ever. All right, where were we at? We actually have work to do today. You have a consent calendar of privileged resolutions before you. Does any senator wish to remove a resolution from the consent calendar? The chair hears none. Is there objection to adoption of the resolutions on the consent calendar? The chair hears none, and the resolutions on the consent calendar are adopted. Are there any motions to withdraw and commit? The chair sees none. And now we are moving on to the much anticipated rules calendar. Mr. Secretary, can you please read the caption of House Bill 275?
House Bill number 275, a bill by Representatives McDonald of the 26th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 4 of Title 25 of, and Article 3 of Chapter 11 of Title 31 of the OCGA, relating to general provisions relative to firefighter standards and training and to emergency medical services personnel, respectively, so as to require random drug tests for certain firefighters, emergency medical services personnel, paramedics, and cardiac technicians, and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Public Safety recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Albers of the 56th District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Public Safety offers the following substitute to House Bill 275, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 33 of the OCGA relating to insurance so as to prohibit insurance for canceling, modifying coverage, refusing to issue, or refusing to renew life insurance policies solely because the applicant or insured donated a liver, pancreas, kidney, intestine, lung, or bone marrow, to amend Chapter 7 of Title 48 of the OCGA relating to income taxes so as to revise an income tax deduction based on a taxpayer's living donation of all or part of his or her liver, pancreas, kidney, intestine, lung, or bone marrow, to provide for an income tax credit and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
For what purpose does the senator from the second rise?
Mr. President, I'd like to excuse the gentleman from the 10th for business outside the chamber.
Without objection, the senator from the 10th is excused. The chair now recognizes the senator from the 56th to present House Bill 275.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is the Giving the Gift of Life Act that you are so gracious to unanimously approve as our first bill of the year, based on some concerns from our friends across the hall that it impacted revenue. It is now on a House Bill, House Bill 275, and I want you to know that I took a couple of the very valuable suggestions that were made during the debate on this bill, which included adding that life insurance could not be canceled for anyone, not just for giving a kidney or a liver, but also adding those who gave a bone marrow, part of pancreas, intestine, lung, etc. There's also a provision that allows any employee to receive the benefit through their employer, not just one that was a full-time employee for over a year. So thank you for your feedback. I'd ask for your favorable consideration. If there are no questions, I would yield the will.
You don't appear to have any questions.
Thank you.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against House Bill 275? The chair sees none. The questions on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to adoption of the committee substitute? The chair hears none, and the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. Secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 51, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Ms. Secretary, can you please read the caption of House Bill 385?
House Bill 385 by Representative Blackman of the 146 and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 7 of Chapter 3 of Title 47 of the OCGA relating to retirement allowances, disability benefits, and spouses benefits, so to permit public school systems to employ beneficiaries of the Teachers Retirement System of Georgia and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Retirement recommend that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Robertson of the 29th District Chairman. Additionally, an auditor's note has been attached. That completes order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 8th to present House Bill 385.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm proud to be carrying this piece of legislation. Last year, we passed the first part of the governor's teacher pipeline package, which was Senate Bill 88. That was the first bill that I had ever carried and was passed through this chamber. HB 385 builds on that success and fulfills Governor Kemp's commitment to a strong teacher pipeline in Georgia. The goal of the bill is to fill vacant teaching positions in high-need areas with experienced teachers. House Bill 385 allows retired teachers with 30 years of credible service to return to the classroom at 100% in high-needs areas while drawing their retirement, but not accruing any more years of service. Districts employing beneficiaries must pay the teacher, the TRS employer, and employee share to not negatively impact the fund. These retired teachers will be allowed to return to full-time instruction after 12 months from retirement. This bill benefits the retired teacher, our students, the retirement system, and rural Georgia. This helps school systems fill vacant teaching positions in high-need areas with qualified and experienced teachers. The latest numbers received by the PSC in regards to a teacher shortage was about 4,000 teaching positions statewide. This means although no classroom is going without a warm body, we have 4,000 teaching positions that are being filled with a teacher who is teaching out of field, a long-term substitute, or someone who's finishing their degree. The high needs areas are determined for each RESA by Georgia DOE after consultation with the Professional Standards Commission. These are the three content areas where there's the greatest percentages of unfilled teaching positions in each RESA. This will ensure every area of the state has a tailored program to meet their needs. Mr. President, I'd be glad to take any questions. If not, I will yield the well.
You've got a question. Chair recognizes the senator from the 4th with a question.
Senator, thank you. Thank you for bringing that. It's not a question, more so a statement, but thank you so much for bringing this great
You're going to have to phrase it in the form of a question.
Sir?
You'll have to phrase it in the form of a question.
Okay. Is it true then that during my high school tenure, I had some great teachers like Miss Smith and Miss Kim, and Miss Brannon, and Miss Foy, and wouldn't it be just wonderful if those teachers could, after they retire, come back into the school system and teach children the same way they taught me and had a great influence on their lives like they had on my life?
Yes, sir, absolutely. As long as it's an area of high need, it would be great.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
You have no more questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 28th to speak to the measure. Easy. Pace yourself.
So, thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to come down on behalf of the senator from the 29th who chairs this committee. He would not come down and speak, so I wanted to do it for him, and I wanted to do it in my best impression of him. So, it's a great bill. I hope you support it. Thank you.
You had questions. Senator has yielded the well. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against House Bill 385? The chair sees none. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill? All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 50, the nays are 1. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Ms. Secretary, can you please read the caption of House Bill 1049?
House Bill 1049, a bill by Representatives LaHood of the 175th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 27 and Title 43 of the OCGA relating to nursing home administrators so as to revise the composition of the State Board of Nursing Home Administrators and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Regulated Industries and Utilities recommend that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Kauser of the 46th District Chairman. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 4th to speak to the bill. You don't have to phrase it in the form of a question now.
Mr. President, this whole process is a learning process, and I appreciate your guidance. As the senator from 53rd has said so many times, this is the shortest bill that you probably will vote on this whole session. And what there is, the State Board of Long-Term Facility Administrators has 9 members, and they want to add 2 more members. One of those members will be a licensed nurse home administrator. So right now there's 3, they want 4. And then there's also 3 assisted living administrators, and they want to add 4 to that. So they'll go from 9 board members to 11 board members on the State Board of Long-Term Care Administrators. Mr. President, I yield the will.
Senator has yielded the well. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against House Bill 1049? The chair sees none. Is there objection to agreeing the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. The Secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 49, the nays are 2. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Mr. Secretary, can you please read the caption of House Bill 1086?
House Bill 1086, a bill by Representatives Dempsey of the 13th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 31-7-18 of the OCGA relating to influenza vaccinations for discharged patients aged 65 and older, vaccinations or other measures of healthcare workers in hospitals, immunity from liability, and standing orders so as to lower the age to 50 years old for hospitals to offer inpatient vaccinations for the influenza virus prior to discharge and for the purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Health and Human Services recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Watson, the 1st District Chairman. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 1st to present House Bill 1086.
Thank you, Mr. President. This just does one thing, is lowers the age that is recommended for inpatient recommendation relating to influenza vaccination from age 65 to age 50. And that's all it does. The logic is that if a physician asks a patient in the hospital, then they're 74% more likely to get vaccinated. And if we had done that back in 2017, we would have reduced the hospitalizations by about 15,000, if I remember correctly. Let me look at that. Around, if 5% age 50 to 64 were vaccinated, we would have reduced 280,000 illnesses and 3,000 additional hospitalizations could have been prevented. If there are no questions, I will yield the well and ask for your favorable consideration.
You have no questions.
Thank you.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against House Bill 1086? The chair sees none. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. Please report to the Secretary's office. On the passage of the bills, the yeas are 52. I'm glad you got to your machine in time. The nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Chair, Mr. Secretary, can you please read the caption of House Bill 1303?
House Bill 1303, a bill by Representative Stickey of the 140th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 3 of Article 6 of Chapter 2 of Title 20 of the OCGA relating to educational programs, so as to transition a pilot program for elementary agricultural education to an ongoing program, and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Agriculture and Consumer Affairs recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Walker of the 20th District, Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Agriculture and Consumer Affairs offered the following substitute to House Bill 1303, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 3 of Article 6 of Chapter 2 of Title 20 of the OCGA relating to educational programs so as to transition a pilot program for elementary agricultural education to an optional ongoing program and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 23rd to present House Bill 1303.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I bring you House Bill 1303. This is a bill that would authorize elementary agricultural education on a statewide basis. It's a follow-on to a former Senate bill passed in 2018 that created a pilot program. This is an opt-in that allows agricultural education in grades K through 5. We've had a very successful 3-year pilot program. If there are no questions, I yield the well and ask for your favorable consideration.
You've got a question.
Oh, a question.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 34th with a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. With Senator Yu.
Certainly, from my good friend.
Is it not true that should 1303 pass, even the kids that come down here to the Capitol can enjoy the interactive agriculture display up on the 4th floor? Is that not true?
That is absolutely correct. I thank the senator for her question and comment.
You have no more questions.
I ask for your favorable consideration. I yield the well.
Any other senator wish to speak for or against House Bill 1303? The chair sees none. The question's on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to adoption of the committee substitute? Chair hears none, and the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 51, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Ms. Secretary, can you please read the caption of House Bill 1346?
House Bill 1346, a bill by Representatives Bollinger of the 23rd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 2 of Chapter 6 of Title 15 of the OCGA relating to clerks of superior courts, so as to provide for construction and further purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Judiciary recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Strickland of the 17th District Chairman. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 32nd to speak to House Bill 1346.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 1346 has to do with our clerks of court. You may know that our clerks of court are not allowed to practice law. Should I start over? Our clerks of court are not allowed to practice law, and this is to avoid conflicts of interest, especially since they handle funds. And this bill would allow our clerks of court who are qualified lawyers to join the Judge Advocate General Corps in the military. So they still would not be able to have a private practice or practice in any other capacity just for the military. I'll be happy to answer any questions or yield the will.
You don't appear to have any questions.
Thank you.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against House Bill 1346? The chair sees none. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill? All those in favor vote yea. Opposed nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 52, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Chair recognizes the senator from the 17th with a motion.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate adhere to its disagreement to the House amendment to Senate substitute to House Bill 334 and that the conference committee be appointed.
Ms. Secretary, can you please read the caption?
House Bill 334, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 2 of Chapter 6 of Title 15 and Article 1 of Chapter 17 of Title 45 of the OCGA relating to clerks of superior courts and general provisions regarding notaries public, to amend Part 1 of Article 1 of Chapter 2 of Title 44 and Article 4 of Chapter 18 and Title 50 of the OCGA relating to recording of deeds and other real property transactions and inspection of public records and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Oh yeah, this one. The senator from the 17th has moved that the Senate adhere to its disagreement to the House amendment, the Senate substitute to House Bill 334, and that a conference committee be appointed. Is there objection? The chair hears none. The chair appoints the senators from the 19th, the 17th, and the 22nd to the conference. It was a close. Tried to find a room for the senator from the 56th, but wanted to send a good working group. Chair recognizes the majority leader for a very important motion.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate stand adjourned until 10 a.m. on Wednesday, 23 March 2022.
Ms. Secretary, do you have any announcements?
The Rules Committee will meet immediately upon adjournment today in 4:50. The Higher Education Committee will meet in 4:50 at 1 p.m. The Insurance and Labor Committee will meet in Mez 1 at 1 p.m. The Building and Housing Subcommittee of the Agriculture and Consumer Affairs Committee will meet in 310 of the CLOB at 2 p.m. today. The Health and Human Services Committee will meet in 4:50 at 2 p.m. today. The Public Safety Committee will meet in Mez 1 at 2 p.m. today. The Raw Milk Subcommittee of the Agriculture and Consumer Affairs Committee will meet in Mez 1 at 3 p.m. today. The Regulated Industries and Utilities Committee will meet in 4:50 at 3 p.m. today. The Compensation Subcommittee of the Appropriations Committee will meet at 4 p.m. today in 125. The Judiciary Committee will meet in 307 of the CLOB at 4 p.m. today. The State and Local Governmental Operations Committee will meet in 310 of the CLOB at 4 p.m. today. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 54th for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. President. Friends, I just want to say today is a Murray County Day here at the Capitol, and they were going to be at the Freight Depot in the Blue Room from 4:30 to 6:30. Welcome you to come over and have some refreshments. And Murray County is one of those counties, if you love the mountains, you need to come to Murray County and see Fort Mountain and Grassy Mountain. Your life will be forever changed. Come over and share some time with us this afternoon at the Freight Depot. I'd enjoy to have each of you there. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 40th for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. President. Dues-paying members of the Women's Caucus, please stop by room 216 of the Capitol and pick up your lunch, and then take it back to your office and join us via Zoom. We have a speaker from the nonprofit Mothers and Others for Clean Air. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 18th for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. President. Our senator from the 19th, the Appropriations Chair, asked me to announce that we will have an appropriations meeting tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Appropriations meeting, all members, 8 a.m. tomorrow in 341. Thank you.
The Majority Leader has moved that this body stand adjourned until Wednesday, March 23rd, 2022 at 10 a.m. All those in favor of that great motion signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. Y'all want to go home. The ayes have it, and the Senate stands adjourned.